Part 1. Shadows of Fear. The village of Accra lay quiet beneath the wide sky, a place where the sound of cicadas filled the evenings and where the earth itself seemed to breathe with memory. To an outsider, it looked like any other small Igbo settlement. Mud-walled houses with thatched roofs, narrow paths winding like snakes between yam barns and cassava fields, and a marketplace that pulsed with life on weekdays. But for those who lived in Accra, there was a secret, a darkness that all knew, yet none spoke of too loudly. At the far edge of the village, beyond the last palm grove and down a path that goats never strayed into, lay the abandoned shrine. The old people said that the shrine was once a place of reverence, dedicated to gods whose names had long been swallowed by time. Sacrifices of fowl and goat, of cola and palm wine, once kept its spirits satisfied. But something had gone wrong. Something terrible had spilled blood on its sacred ground, staining it in ways no ritual could cleanse. Since then, the shrine had been left to rot, its mud walls collapsing, its roof choked by weeds and creeping vines. And yet it had not died. They said no bird perched on its roof. No grass grew too near its threshold. Hunters who wandered too close swore they heard whispers, not carried by the wind, but rising from the earth itself. Strange lights were said to flicker there on moonless nights, and the rustle of unseen footsteps often followed those bold enough to approach. The villagers called it Agbiaya Equinsu, the grove of the devil's altar. Children were warned never to wander near. Elders, when passing by, lowered their gaze and muttered short prayers under their breath. One old man, Pan Wankwo, once told a gathering of youths by the fireside, Aniajuru Aya, Ogbagbaru Anwiya Enthi. He who rejects sacrifice destroys himself in the river. His voice had cracked as he said it, his eyes clouded with both age and memory. He refused to explain further, and no one pressed him. But they all knew he spoke of the shrine. Still, fear has a way of fading in the hearts of the young. And in Accra, no one's heart was as defiant as that of Obinna, son of Udachukwu. Obinna was not like the other youths. Where they trembled at shadows, he sought them out. Where they whispered tales of spirits, he laughed, brushing them off as stories concocted by old men to keep children in line. He was bold, strong, and curious, sometimes too curious for his own good. One evening, as the moon hung low and the air thickened with the smell of roasting yam, a group of young men gathered in the village square. The conversation, as it often did, turned toward the shrine. I heard that the shrine moves at night, one said, voice low, that its walls shift as if it breathes. Another quickly added, my uncle swore he saw a flame burning within it, though no one lives there. Who could have lit it? Obinna, leaning against a tree, chuckled. And you fools believe this? Old wives' tales, nothing more. There is no spirit there, only shadows and your own fear. They turned to him, uneasy. Obinna, you speak too boldly. Many before you mocked the shrine. They paid for it, but Obinna only grinned. His pride swelled under their fearful eyes. Then let me be the first to prove you all wrong. I will go there. I will spend the night inside the shrine, and I will return in the morning to show you that nothing waits in the dark but silence. The group gasped. One spat on the ground. Tufiakwa, Obinna, do not joke with such things. I am not joking, he said firmly. I will go tomorrow night. Alone. Word spread quickly, as such words always do. By dawn, the whole village knew of Obinna's vow. Mothers shook their heads. Fathers muttered that the boy was too reckless. The elders tried to warn him, but Obinna stood his ground. Even Pan Wankwo, who rarely left his hut, hobbled out to confront him. His old eyes glistened in the sunlight, fixed on the young man. Obinna, NWAM, he croaked, voice heavy with both fear and anger. Do not walk the path of the foolish goat that follows the hyena into the forest. That shrine does not sleep. It remembers, and it will remember you. But Obinna only bowed politely and smiled. Papa, I respect you, but fear has ruled this village for too long. I will prove to all that the shrine is nothing but mud and vines. The old man turned away, muttering, Agwo Inogi and Yulo, Anaakwu na ijim barigba akpoya. When the snake is not at home, people say it is summoned with a bell. His words hung like a curse in the air. That night, Obinna sharpened his cutlass and prepared a small bag with palm oil lamp, dry fish, and a calabash of water. The village watched him in silence, some with pity, others with admiration. The next evening, as the sun dipped behind the palm trees, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Obinna stood at the edge of the path that led to the shrine. His mother clutched his arm, her eyes wet with tears. "My son," she whispered, "please, do not do this." But Obinna gently pried her fingers from his arm. "I must, Mama. Tomorrow you will see, and the village will finally sleep without fear." He turned and began to walk, his figure swallowed by the tall elephant grass. The villagers stood at a distance, unwilling to follow. Only the sound of his footsteps and the faint cry of a nightjar accompanied him. And as the last trace of sunlight vanished, the shadows of the forest thickened. The path narrowed, the air grew colder, and the shrine, silent, waiting, seemed to breathe his name. Obinna, Candle Part 2, Journey into Darkness. The path to the shrine was not often walked, but its outline still remained, carved into the land like an old scar that refused to fade. The villagers avoided it, letting weeds and elephant grass grow unchecked. Yet the earth beneath was strangely bare, as though the soil itself remembered the countless feet that had once trodden it during sacrifices of the past. Obinna's sandals crunched softly against the hardened ground as he made his way deeper into the thicket. The moon had risen, pale and round, casting long shadows that stretched across his path like reaching fingers. From time to time, the wind sighed through the trees, carrying with it the faint smell of decay, damp leaves, forgotten offerings, the sourness of something left too long in the dark. At first, he walked with confidence, his cutlass swinging lightly at his side, his lamp unlit in his hand. But as the distance between himself and the village grew, a silence began to settle around him. The chirping of crickets dulled. The occasional hoot of an owl ceased. Even the rustle of palm fronds stilled, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. He stopped, frowning. He had hunted in these woods before, had gone to cut bamboo and gather firewood. Never had it been this quiet. The night should have been alive with sound. Instead, it felt as though he had stepped into a different world, one where noise was forbidden. He shook his head. "Fear," he muttered under his breath. "Only fear." Still, his fingers tightened around the lamp. The deeper he went, the more he began to notice signs. Strange ones. A broken calabash, lying at the edge of the path, its once painted designs faded but still visible. White chalk, smeared long ago on the trunk of an iroko tree, forming symbols he did not understand. A bundle of feathers, bound together with palm fronds, hanging from a low branch, swaying, though there was no wind. He paused at each one, staring, unease prickling the back of his neck. He knew enough to recognize them as remnants of rituals. The elders would have called them Nzu na Aya, marks of sacrifice and supplication. But these were not fresh. They were old, weathered by rain and time. Still, the fact that they lingered, that they had not been swallowed by the forest, unsettled him. A whisper drifted through the trees. Faint, barely audible, like the sigh of a distant voice. Obinna. He froze. The sound was so soft that he wondered if he had imagined it. His heart beat faster. He turned sharply, raising his cutlass, eyes scanning the shadows. Nothing moved. Nothing stirred. The wind picked up briefly, brushing through the elephant grass. He exhaled and forced a laugh. Imagination, he told himself. Nothing more. But his pace quickened. The path began to slope downward, narrowing between thick trunks of aji and palm trees. The air grew heavier, thicker, as though he were descending not just into the earth, but into some hidden chamber of time. His lamp flickered as he finally lit it, the flame casting shaky orange light across the gloom. Shadows leapt across the trees like dark spirits mocking him. Then at last he saw it, the shrine. It stood at the end of the path, half swallowed by the forest, yet stubbornly upright. Its walls of red mud were cracked, vines curling across them like veins on dead skin. The roof sagged under the weight of weeds, but did not collapse. In front of it lay a flat stone, blackened by years of fire, where offerings had once been burned. Obinna slowed, his bravado faltering for the first time. There was something about the structure that unsettled him, though he could not name it. It was not simply the ruin of an old shrine. It was the way it seemed to be waiting, watching. He approached cautiously. His lamp's glow reached the doorway, a dark, yawning mouth without a door to bar it. The air around, it was colder than the night air, cold enough that he could see his breath fog faintly before him. A soft sound reached him, a whisper, this time clearer. Obinna. He spun again, cutlass raised. His eyes darted across the trees. The lamp light swung wildly, illuminating only the silent forest. No one stood there, yet the voice had been so close. He licked his lips, forcing himself to laugh again, though it was weaker this time. If the spirits wish to frighten me, they must do better. He stepped toward the entrance. The threshold of the shrine was marked by two old wooden posts, rotting, half-eaten by termites. On each post was carved a face, crude and half worn away by time. One looked like it was laughing, the other weeping. The sight made his stomach twist. He raised his lamp and stepped inside. The air changed immediately. It was heavy, damp, and thick with the smell of earth and something else, something metallic like rust or dry blood. His footsteps echoed against the mud floor. The walls were close, pressing in, though the shrine was not large. Inside, broken pots lay scattered. An overturned stool, its legs rotted. Feathers and bones in the dust, remnants of sacrifices long forgotten. And, at the far end, an altar. It was a simple slab of stone, stained black, though whether from soot or something darker, he could not tell. Behind it, marks had been scratched into the wall. Some were old Igbo symbols he vaguely recognized. Others were unfamiliar, curling and jagged, like claws had etched them. The flame of his lamp sputtered, then steadied. Obinna exhaled and set down his bag. "So, this is the heart of your fear?" he murmured to himself. "This old house of dust and stone." He lowered himself onto the ground, leaning against the wall. "I will sleep here, and when I wake, I will return to the village. Then they will know there is nothing here." But even as he spoke the words, a chill swept across the shrine. The flame of his lamp flickered violently, casting the shadow of the altar against the wall. For the briefest moment, the shadow moved, though the altar itself had not. And in the silence, the whispers returned. This time not faint, not distant, but all around him. Obinna, Candle Part 3, Whispers and Chants. The shrine did not sleep. As Obinna leaned against the cracked wall, trying to force calm into his racing chest, he realized something was shifting in the air. The silence that had unnerved him outside was nothing compared to this. It was a silence that breathed, that pulsed, that pressed into his ears until he thought he might hear his own thoughts echoing back at him. And beneath it, the whispers. At first, they were faint, like wind pushing through distant leaves. But then they grew clearer. Words emerged, words that curled around his name. Obinna. He jolted upright, lamp trembling in his hand. His cutlass felt suddenly too small, too thin, as though it were no more useful than a twig. "Who is there?" he barked, forcing strength into his voice. "Show yourself." Only the silence answered. And then, "Obinna, Anoloani? Obinna, do you hear us?" The voice was not one, but many. Men, women, old, young, all layered over each other, yet speaking as one. He clenched his jaw, his breath harsh in the still air. "Tricks," he muttered. "Just tricks." But his body betrayed him. Sweat slid down his spine despite the coolness of the air. The whispers shifted, weaving into something melodic. A chant, low at first, then rising, reverberating in the tiny shrine until it seemed the very walls were singing. "Dina ani, Zara ani, ani abiala, ani enki inodinala, koro ani in eulogi." Our ancestors, answer us, we have come, earth that dwells in tradition, Call us into your house. Obina's breath caught. He knew the rhythm. He had heard something like it before. Once, long ago, during a funeral when the elders invoked the spirits of a land. But this was darker, twisted. Where the funeral chant had carried sorrow, this one carried hunger. The flame of his lamp bent as if pulled by invisible breath. Then it sputtered out. Darkness swallowed him whole. He staggered, groping blindly for his flint, his bag, anything. His cutlass clattered against the altar stone, sparks flying briefly in the dark. For a heartbeat, the room lit up in a harsh flash. And in that flash, he saw them. Figures. Dozens of them. Pale, eyeless, crowding the walls. Some crouched, some standing, some bent at unnatural angles. Their mouths moved in unison, whispering, chanting, but no sound came from them. Then the darkness fell again. No, his voice shook. He struck the flint desperately, relighting the lamp. The figures were gone. The shrine looked as it had before. Empty, broken, silent. But he could still hear the chant. Louder now, surrounding him. Ndina ani, Zara ani Abiala. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Leave me! I am not afraid of you." The chant stopped. The silence that followed was worse. A silence so thick it seemed to press against his chest, squeezing. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. And then, from the far wall of the shrine, a new voice rose. Different from the others. Stronger. Female. It was clear, commanding, yet heavy with sorrow. "Child of Yudacho," the voice said, echoing through the mud walls. "Why have you come?" Obina's throat tightened. His lips parted, but no sound came. "You mock what you do not understand," the voice continued. "You enter where even elders dare not tread. Do you think this place is empty? Do you think time erases blood?" Something moved. A shape began to form at the altar. The lamplight flickered, bending as though drawn to it. Slowly, a figure emerged, not of flesh, but of smoke and shadow. A woman, tall and regal, her head wrapped in ghostly cloth, her eyes hollow pits of fire. Obina stumbled back, his shoulders hitting the wall. His cutlass slipped from his grip, clattering uselessly onto the floor. The figure's lips did not move, yet her voice filled the room. "This was my house, my altar. My blood sealed its power. Do you not see it still upon the stone?" Obina's gaze flickered to the blackened slab. For the first time, he realized the stains were not soot. They were too dark, too deep. His voice cracked as he found words. What are you?" The figure straightened, her shadow stretching impossibly long across the wall. "I was the priestess of Ani," she intoned, "keeper of the earth's covenant. But I was betrayed. My blood spilled not for the gods, but for men's greed. They bound me here. They left me here. And now, I am many." Her form flickered, and for a moment the faces of men, women, and children appeared within her, merging, shifting, as if she contained all their voices, all their souls. Obina's skin crawled. His knees weakened. "You should not have come," she said softly. "But since you have, you will not leave untouched." The whispers surged again, filling the shrine, so loud that Obina clamped his hands over his ears. They spoke his name again and again, a chorus of the dead. "Obina, Obina, Obina." His vision blurred. The walls seemed to close in. Shadows crawled across the mud like living things. And then he felt it. A hand, cold, pressing against his shoulder. He screamed, whirling with his cutlass, swinging blindly. But the blade passed through air. The lamp tumbled, rolled, and lay on its side, flame flickering dangerously. He backed against the altar, chest heaving. "Stay back." The priestess's form drifted closer, her hollow gaze fixed on him. "You cannot cut shadow," she whispered. "You cannot silence what was never meant to rest." The chorus rose again, and this time he could understand their words. They were no longer chanting to the ancestors. They were pleading, begging, "Free us, free us, free us." Obina's head spun. He shouted above them, "I cannot help you." The priestess's hollow eyes burned brighter. "Then you will join us." The lamp's flame guttered again. The darkness surged forward, swallowing the shrine whole. Absolutely okay, and let's dive into the final act. Richly intense, dramatically haunting, and atmospherically heavy with dread. Here is Candle Part 4, The Bargain and the Horror. The darkness did not just swallow the shrine. It pressed into Obina's skin, seeping coldly, cruelly, insistently, until he felt as though icy fingers were threading through his veins. His breaths came shallow, rapid, panicked, each inhale tasting of damp earth and bitter iron. The shadows thickened monstrously, grotesquely, wrapping around the altar like living vines. The priestess's form loomed taller, more imposing, her ghostly cloth trailing endlessly, her hollow eyes glowing ever brighter. Her presence was overwhelming, suffocating, almost regal in its dreadful authority. "Obina," she intoned softly, yet thunderously, her voice trembling through the walls. "You cannot run. You cannot hide. You must choose." His knees buckled. His hands shook violently as he gripped the cutlass, though it now felt like a child's toy. "Choose? Choose what?" He stammered desperately, his voice cracking pitifully. Her shadowy fingers extended, impossibly long, toward his chest. He recoiled instinctively, pressing himself painfully against the altar stone. "Life or legacy," she whispered slowly, deliberately, her voice echoing in layers. "We offer you power, Obina. We offer you knowledge beyond men, strength beyond warriors, sight beyond seers. You will never be forgotten." The chorus of whispers swelled thunderously, passionately, surrounding him like a storm. "Join us, join us! Obina, Obina, great one, chosen one." He shook his head furiously. His chest heaved, his throat burnt. "No, I want no bargain. I came to prove you false, not to." The shadows lashed viciously, slamming the cutlass from his grip. It clattered uselessly to the floor, ringing sharply in the suffocating air. The priestess leaned closer, her face inches from his, her breath chillingly sweet with the scent of decay and incense. "Then leave, child of Udachukwu, but you will not leave whole." The shrine trembled violently, its mud walls shuddering. The symbols etched in the clay glowed faintly, eerily, as though freshly carved. The ground cracked slightly beneath him, tiny fissures glowing red, as if fire smoldered beneath the earth. The chorus of voices grew harsher, hungrier. "Blood, blood, give us blood." Obina staggered forward, desperate, clutching for the lamp. Its fragile flame sputtered faintly, pathetically, fighting against the dark. "I will not give you anything," he shouted shakily, though his voice broke under terror. The priestess's shadow flared gigantically, monstrously, her body splitting into dozens of faces, mouth size, the souls trapped within her. Their cries rose unbearably loud, unbearably anguished, filling his ears until blood seemed to rush furiously in his head. Then silence, and in the silence, a choice. Her voice, low and venomously sweet. "Stay until dawn, and you will walk free. But your shadow will remain with us. Or give your flesh and become our vessel." Obina's lips trembled. He fell to his knees, his heart pounding violently, violently, like a drum of war. "Stay my shadow? What does that mean?" The priestess leaned in, her face shimmering between beauty and horror. "It means you will never escape us. When you walk, we will walk. When you breathe, we will whisper. When you love, we will hunger. You will live, but never alone." Obina's mind reeled chaotically. His throat was dry, his hands clammy, his spirit fragile. Could he endure such a curse? Yet the alternative. "I will not be your vessel," he rasped hoarsely. "I am not your slave." The shadows screamed furiously, agonizingly, shrill and thunderous. The shrine convulsed, violently shaking as dust rained from its cracked ceiling. The altar pulsed darkly, hungrily, as though thirsty for his blood. Obina scrambled desperately, recklessly, toward the doorway. His feet pounded against the ground, his breath ragged. But as he reached the threshold, it was gone. The doorway had sealed itself, replaced by solid wall. "No, No. His palms struck the wall frantically, his nails clawing wildly at the clay. His lamp tumbled again, its fragile light dimming almost completely. The priestess's voice boomed thunderously, resonating cruelly. There is no escape, child. There's only choice. Obinna fell, trembling uncontrollably, clutching his head as the voices swarmed inside his skull. His tears streamed hotly, hopelessly, down his face. Then a bell. A faint, metallic ringing. Not from his world, not from his ears, but from deep within the shrine. Mbarigba, the bell of calling. The priestess froze. The whispers hushed instantly, fearfully. The sound rang again, louder, clearer, and with it, a faint light, pale, silver, holy, seeping into the cracks of the shrine's walls. Dawn. Obinna lifted his face weakly, trembling, his eyes wide. The priestess hissed venomously, retreating into the shadows. Her form melted slowly, furiously, but her hollow eyes never left him. You are marked, Obinna. Dawn may take you out, but it cannot free you. From this day, you belong to us. The light spread slowly, insistently, filling the shrine. The shadows shrieked painfully, fading reluctantly. The walls groaned. Then, silence again. When Obinna blinked next, he was outside. He was lying at the foot of the shrine, the cold morning dew chilling his skin. His body was whole, his breath shallow but steady. The villagers stood a distance away, staring wide-eyed, muttering nervously, fearfully. He rose shakily, slowly, leaning heavily on his knees. Obinna, his mother's voice called faintly, tearfully, but as he turned toward her, the villagers gasped audibly. His shadow, cast against the ground by the rising sun, was not his own. It was longer, darker, distorted grotesquely, and within it mouths moved, whispering ceaselessly. That night, in Akara, even those who had not gone near the shrine swore they heard it. Whispers, curling softly, maliciously, through the thatched walls of their huts, whispering one name again and again. Obinna, Obinna, Obinna.